Throughout the story of One Piece, there's been a character who's been constantly evolving and showing us, the audience, that he's a massive player even if the arc doesn't evolve around him, and that's Sanji. Even down to the last arc in the story, Sanji still has a massive focal point in the arc, which makes him, in my eyes at least, the most intriguing Straw Hat. Now if you know me, you know how much I love Sanji, but my love for Sanji just doesn't come from his slick fighting style or his sometimes great pickup lines, or even his amazing charisma. Yes, love Sanji for being all of that and having all of that, but I love Sanji for the way he portrays and shows us how somebody can learn to truly understand sacrifice and how it can either be a very selfish thing or a very selfless thing. But before I get into the video, if you guys enjoyed the video and make it to the end, then a like and subscribe would be very nice. Since it's kind of a win-win for both of us. You guys get more amazing content like this, and I'm able to put out more amazing content like this. Anyway, that's enough of my rambling. I know what you're here for, so I'm gonna dive into it. When we're first introduced to Sanji, he seems like a rude cook with a loud mouth. If you saw this right in front of you, you just assume that. But even if you do a little bit of digging in this panel, you can just tell that Sanji cherishes food a lot. But obviously through this panel, you'll never know why he cherishes it so much. And what I love about Oda so much is the fact that he then adds another beat onto his character, and it's him not wanting to leave the ship no matter how much Zeff wants him to. So with only a couple panels, we're able to infer something about Sanji's character. And then with the addition of Gin arriving and him feeding Gin, this also deepens this thing that he has about food. With him cherishing food, he then doubles down with not allowing anybody to go hungry in his presence. And at this point, you're kind of like, what happened to where Sanji feels the need to cherish food so much? And on top of that, what happens for Sanji to feel so attached to Zeff and the Baratier? Why does he not want to leave? With everything on the Baratier escalating, with Gin putting a gun at Zeff's head and both of them telling him to move so they can just take the Baratier, everything bubbles up and Sanji finally releases why he cherishes it so much. And Oda gives it to us through a flashback. First, Sanji started off as a person with his own goals and not really cherishing food. I mean, we just saw him throw away food and then fight for what he wants. But then with the second flashback, you then understand why Sanji loves Zeff and food so much. Due to all of those events, Sanji feels the need to give himself up for Zeff, and due to that, when Gin gives everybody the opportunity to walk, Sanji selfishly makes the decision to sacrifice himself for the ship, because on that day he decided that he'd give his life for Zeff no matter what. In Sanji's eyes, this was the right choice, but in Zeff's eyes, the one he's doing it for, it seemed like a selfish choice. Sanji's sacrifice may look noble to him and probably the viewer, but to Zeff, it wasn't, because this wasn't what Zeff wanted. This was what Zeff didn't want. It was foolish, and this is why Zeff wanted Sanji gone the whole time, because he knew Sanji felt bad for him. Zeff knew Sanji was attached to him ever since that day, so when Luffy came strolling in and offered to take Sanji, he was ready to cut Sanji loose. Unfortunately for Zeff, after all the events of the Baratier happened, he was able to cut Sanji loose and push him onto Luffy. But as I just said, all he did was just move Sanji onto somebody else. Sanji was then latched onto another person, meaning the cycle would then continue.
Luffy wa kaizoku ni naru otoko da! Mate mate, kuso yarou! Omei ga shinde dou sun da yo?
Thriller Bark was the next main arc that we'd see Sanji throw himself into harm's way for the people that he valued the most. But the difference is here, we now have two people that are doing the exact same thing, but for different reasons. On one hand, we have Zoro, whose sacrifice was selfless, while on the other hand, we have Sanji, whose sacrifice was selfish. Zoro knew what was on the line, and knew that if he did this, his dream of becoming the world's greatest swordsman would vanish. See, in the beginning of the story, Zoro told Luffy that he'd never give up his dream for him, but after being on so many adventures with him, Zoro became less selfish and understood what it meant to be as a member of Luffy's crew. The crew isn't just a group of people with their own selfish desires, no, they're a group of people who want to achieve their goals, but at a drop of a hat they do anything for Luffy. So you may ask, what's the difference between Zoro and Sanji? And it's simple, it's self-worth. Sanji's reasoning for giving up his body is because they can always find another cook, and he doesn't value himself, so he believes that he should sacrifice himself, while Zoro does this because he knows the rest of them can't do it. To put it simply, Zoro's doing it for reasons other than himself, while Sanji's doing it because of himself. Don't get me wrong, Sanji is doing it for the crew, but it's all rooted from a lack of self-worth and a selfish desire to feel like he's giving back to Luffy while sacrificing himself. It's very clear in the Baratier too when Sanji calls himself worthless. Now luckily we all know what happens, Zoro knocks him out and Sanji wakes up to see Zoro standing there barely even conscious. And with this, we're able to segue into Sabaody.
生きていたのか、ロロノア。
お前の慈悲のおかげでな。
旅行するならどこへ行きたい？
おいゾロ、早くここから逃げねえと。
Now in Sabaody, when Kuma arrives and starts teleporting the Straw Hats away, Sanji gets mad at himself. Now if Sanji had any sense, he would have listened to Luffy and Usopp and ran. He would have picked up Usopp and decided to run away, but because of his hard-headedness and his own thoughts, he believed that he should sacrifice himself there so Usopp could get away, or just the rest of them can get away in general. And this is another example of Sanji being completely selfish. Due to his own desires and thoughts, he just ran back in and allowed himself to be teleported away like the rest. And once again, that's Sanji's self-worth coming up here. He believes that if he can't save everybody around him or just do something, he's gonna be worthless. And you know what, while we're here, I think it's the perfect time for me to explain what it truly means to be selfish. Now like with any other word, you'd put a tag on selfish, and selfish usually relates to something bad. But as we all know, everything in this world isn't black and white, and selfish can be in that grey area. Being selfish means to concentrate and do whatever for oneself. So that means yes, you can be a selfish person and be good. An example would be you devoting yourself to saving somebody no matter what. That is a selfish desire. That is you wanting to do it. Even if somebody does benefit from your generosity, it's still a selfish desire. You decided to save them because you wanted to. That is you being selfish. That is you concentrating on your own feelings and doing it because you wanted to. And that's exactly what Sanji is and does. Yes, his actions on the surface may seem selfless and heroic, but the cause behind them are selfish, and this isn't the last time he does it, but luckily, this is the last time he does it without being checked.
これをルフィたちに。
サンジ。
ビンスモーク。もう二度と俺の前に現れないはずの過去だった。俺はどうしても
This time Sanji does sacrifice himself, and this time it's way different. See, all the other times Sanji just wanted to fulfill what he believed his role in the crew was, or scratch that deep desire to feel worth or something to the crew, but this time it was different. Sanji wasn't born into the world thinking that he was useless. No, it was drilled into him, day in and day out.
They hurt me, Father.
Why should I? I have no obligation to help you. I gain nothing by raising you.
In Whole Cake Island, we get to see Sanji at his lowest and truly understand why he made the Mr. Prince persona, or why he loves to call himself worthless and throw himself into harm's way. Sanji as a child was belittled and told that he wasn't worth a single thing.
将来性ゼロか。はい。まさかの遭難とは悲しい。
待ってよ。こんなとこにいんのやだよ。お父さんを呼んでよ。お父さん助けて。殺されるよ。
これは国王様のご決断です。
This would lead him to adopt a different mindset, especially due to his already kind nature. Instead of living for himself, Sanji would live for other people, and when the time was right, he would sacrifice himself as a form of payback when all the people around him wanted to do was live. First it was Zeff, and now it's Luffy. Sanji will continuously throw his life away just so that he can... Seeing through Sanji's nonsense, Luffy punches the living hell out of him, and this gets Sanji to confess how he truly feels. Sanji just wants to go back to the Sunny. And this is where his selfish desire to save his family turns into a selfless one, and this is where his actions after this are purely selfless. See, coming into Whole Cake, Sanji wanted to just save his crew, but until they came and then he found out what Pudding was really doing, he then found out he needs to then save his family. And this is what was weighing on him. Sanji's selfishly kind nature just wanted him to save everybody. Whether it's his abusive family or his loving crew, Sanji just feels the need to save everybody. And it even pushed him so far to hurt his captain, somebody that he loved deeply. But with Luffy's punch, this changes everything, and the difference between Sanji before the punch and after the punch is like night and day. Before the punch, Sanji believed that he was obligated to do it. It felt like he had to do it. But after the punch, he wasn't doing it for himself, he was doing it for them. Though he hated them, he knew what was right, and he was doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because he felt like he had to do it. To me and to many others, the change is very clear and very night and day, but to others, it may seem very subtle, but trust me, it's there. And through this change, Sanji is able to make decisions that he would never have done before, and we are first shown this in Wano. During the raid, Sanji ends up in a predicament, and his choices are either to succumb to Black Maria or call for Nico Robin. Now, if you care anything about One Piece, Ryan, you know how beautiful this scene was. Seeing Robin rock up and obviously save Sanji, and Sanji calling out for Robin is crazy. Out of all the Straw Hats, the two of them are the most similar. As kids, they had things that they wanted to see and do, and obviously the world wasn't in their favor and they were told that they were worthless. And through that, they would latch onto different people until they met Luffy, and then Luffy would give them a reason to truly live by themselves. And Robin's selfish desire to obviously sacrifice herself in Annie's lobby mirrors Sanji's selfish sacrifice that he does in Whole Cake Island. But through Luffy's words, they then break the shackles on them and they're now able to finally move as people. So with both of their moments out of the way and them being able to fully mature as people and obviously call on each other, this was a beautiful moment. And the thing is, I truly believe that the old Sanji would have succumbed to Black Maria without calling for help. But this is a new and improved Sanji. And by the way, this isn't the last time we see Sanji do this and evolve as a character in Wano, so why don't we get onto that?
腹決めたよ。きっとこいつを着たせいで、俺の体にもともとあった科学が目覚めたんだろう。うん？これ以上はなしだ。
お前がいねえと、俺は海賊王になれねえ。
Now, like any normal person, Sanji began to panic and get upset over the fact that he's turning into the thing he hated the most. But after calming himself down, he began to think to himself, what would Luffy want? He began to think what Luffy would want. And he decided between Luffy wanting an emotionless robot that would be able to dismantle anybody in a moment's notice, or the friend that he has seen throughout his whole entire journey. And picking the smart choice, Sanji decides he'd rather be the friend that Luffy's always seen. Obviously, as backup, he decides to call Zoro, and they do share a really heartfelt moment where Sanji's like, if I ever go rogue after this, just do it, end me. This shows a level of maturity between Sanji and Zoro, and then also a massive level of maturity from Sanji, because I truly do believe that if this was Sanji before, he'd have been like, I think Luffy would want the emotionless robot since he's more useful. No, you're useful as Sanji right now. Now we all know how his fight with Queen goes and how Wano ends. Sanji stays Sanji and they move on to Egghead. And with Egghead, there's the last piece to Sanji's character that I believe he was missing. With this last piece, it fully takes him into being a selfless person and knowing what it means to understand sacrifice. At the end of the arc, Sanji could be seen looking over Vegapunk and feeling bad about what he let transpire. As we all know, Vegapunk wanted Sanji to let him die as he has something planned, but Sanji is a very kind person and so obviously he was against it. And what I love about the dialogue between those two is the understanding on both sides. Sanji understands that Vegapunk doesn't want to do it, and Vegapunk understands that Sanji is not just going to allow him to die, but it's the fact that Vegapunk has to be the selfless one in the situation and they both have to just be like, okay, cool, if it happens, it happens. So obviously on his watch he didn't willy-nilly let Vegapunk die, but it was something that Vegapunk wanted to happen and it was eventually going to happen. And I feel like if this was Sanji pre-time skip, he would have gotten mad and cried about it, but here he's just like, it was pretty deep what you said, but I mean look, you wanted it to happen, so it happened. Anyway, to conclude, Sanji went from somebody who selfishly would sacrifice himself to now knowing what it truly meant to selflessly sacrificing himself, making his arc of truly understanding sacrifice coming full circle. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I'm more like Melon Tea or like any top tier analysis on One Piece or just Ryan in general, but since I love Sanji so much and I love a few One Piece characters, I'm gonna throw out like a few videos like this. Now you're scrolling on my channel like, okay, this guy's a power scale, what's he doing this? But hey, relax. We're jack of all trades. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then you know what to do, like and subscribe, since I will be posting more of these. I have a few in the locker. I want to do a whitebed one very soon, and I want to do a Monkey D. Dragon one, because I don't think a lot of people understand how important Monkey D. Dragon is to the story, so I want to push that one out there. But yeah, I don't want to keep you guys for too long, so I'll see you guys in the next video.